Okay, let's take a look at this first group of questions here and see what we come up with. The Sarbanes-Oxley or Sarbanes-Oxley Act applies to publicly held companies, not-for-profit organizations, privately held businesses, or all of these. Okay, so we want to understand the reason for the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was to protect investors. Okay, so by that rationale, the answer is A. Sarbanes-Oxley only applies to publicly held companies. You may also see terminology referring to these companies as issuing companies or issuers, meaning they issue shares of their stock. Okay? All right, probably everybody got that one. Let's move on. It says, match each situation with the fraud triangle factor, opportunity, financial pressure, or rationalization that best describes it. And in the PowerPoint presentation, we talked about how the fraud triangle was applicable to either employees or the company as a whole, really. But it looks like this question is focusing only on employees. So starting with A, they have a scenario. It says an employee's monthly credit card payments are nearly 75% of monthly earnings. Okay, so if this employee were to commit fraud, okay, that's kind of the foregone conclusion here, is that these employees are going to commit fraud. Which part of the fraud triangle, opportunity, financial pressure, or rationalization would apply? Well, when we have credit card payments alone that are 75% of monthly earnings, we have a tremendous amount of financial pressure here that this employee is feeling, and that pressure could drive that employee to misappropriate assets or steal cash from the company. Okay. Choice or number B, it says, or letter B, it says an employee earns minimum wage at a firm that has reported record earnings for each of the last 5 years. Okay, well, let's think about this. This has nothing to do with opportunity. Now, the employee probably has some level of financial pressure in his or her life if they're earning minimum wage. But if this employee decides to commit fraud, they're likely going to rationalize that they deserve a raise anyway. After all, the company is reporting record earnings. Why am I still making minimum wage? So the answer here would be rationalization. Hopefully I spelled that correctly. Okay. An employee has an expensive gambling habit. Okay. This is also an example of financial pressure. I'm just going to abbreviate that. And an employee has check writing and signing responsibility for a small company and is also responsible for reconciling the bank account. Okay, so what this means is this employee can write checks, sign those checks, and then when it comes time to reconcile the bank account, we haven't gotten into the reconciling process yet, this employee has control over that process as well. So we have weak internal controls that have produced an opportunity to commit fraud. Okay, so those are the correct answers for the second question. Let's see here. It looks like we have another multiple choice question. It says, the objectives of internal control are to, now let's see what it says here. Control the internal organization of the accounting department, personnel, and equipment. Well, that's not true. We're dealing with a whole lot more than just the accounting department. So that's no good there. Let's look at B. It says provide reasonable assurance, I like the way that's starting out, that assets are safeguarded and used for business purposes as they should be, business information is accurate, and laws and regulations are complied with in full. Okay, that is going to end up being the correct answer. Internal control does have some measures to help prevent fraud, but promoting the social interest of the company is a byproduct of effective internal control. It is not an objective, however. And then let's see, D, provide control over internal use only reports and employ internal conduct. Well, again, these are byproducts of an effective internal control system. They are not, however, objectives. So B, again, is the correct answer. All right, let's take a look at this little matching exercise, and then we'll take a break. It says, match the terms A through E to the correct definition below, numbered 1 through 5. Okay, very good. Let's see here. So we've got the control environment, risk assessment, control procedures, monitoring, and information and communication. All right, very good. So let's see here. It says, helps management guide operations and ensure compliance with reporting, legal, and regulatory requirements. Okay. The second one says identification of risks faced by an organization so that management can take necessary actions to control them. Third one, locates deficiencies in the internal control system and improves control effectiveness. Okay. 4, the overall attitude of management and employees about the importance of internal controls. And finally, policies and procedures designed to provide reasonable assurance that business goals are met and fraud is prevented. Okay, so let's go back up here to the first one. Helps management guide operations and ensure compliance with reporting, legal, and regulatory requirements. I believe if we look at our choices here, this should fall under choice E. Okay, information and communication with management helps them guide operations and ensure compliance. All right. Looking at number 2, the identification of risk faced by an organization so that management can take necessary actions to control them. This is a part of B, risk assessment. And then finally, let's see, well, not finally, locates deficiencies in the internal control system and improves control effectiveness. Okay, so it looks like we're going to use each of these once. So when we monitor the internal control system, that's how we find out about those deficiencies. The overall attitude of management and employees about the importance of internal controls. When we see that word attitude, we want to come up here and find the control environment. And policies and procedures designed to provide reasonable assurance, procedures, that business goals are met and fraud is prevented. These are our actual control procedures. So answer choice C is correct. We'll take a break and move on to a new video here in a moment.